I believe that how goes Harvard goes the rest of the universities. And Harvard is being made an example of. Harvard is absolutely in the crosshairs right now and taking a lot of punishment from all sides. My topic right now, focusing on admissions, focusing on international students, and the implications it has for US students as well. Hello, and welcome to the Admittedly podcast. My name is Thomas Caleel. I'm the former director of MBA admissions and financial aid for my alma mater, the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. In this podcast, I don't promise easy answers or quick fixes, but I will use my decades of experience to help you achieve your education goals. Now let's get started. Hello, and welcome to the Admittedly podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Caleel, and today we're going to be talking about Harvard. Well, here's the thing, not just Harvard. We're going to be talking about all schools in general that enroll international students. But Harvard is out front. They're taking all the incoming fire from the administration. So I'm going to talk about them specifically. And I do that because I believe that how goes Harvard goes the rest of the universities. And Harvard is being made an example of. Harvard is absolutely in the crosshairs right now and taking a lot of punishment from all sides. We can argue whether or not Harvard deserves some of this, but that's not really our topic today. My topic right now, focusing on admissions, focusing on international students, and the implications it has for US students as well. Harvard does not exist in a vacuum. And my take on this is that Harvard is being used as a test case. If they can take down the biggest, meanest gorilla in the jungle, then everybody else is going to fall in line. So let's start on a little bit of a timeline, right? March 31st of 2025, it was announced that they were doing a grant review of Harvard, and they were looking at doing an assessment of about $8.7 billion in multi-year grants. That is a staggering number, and it really caused a big scramble at Harvard. Programs were cut. They've mounted a very aggressive social media and advertising and PR campaign saying basically, hey, what's getting cut here is medical research, really critical things for health and wellness, for the benefit of all Americans and all citizens of the world. And they're launching a very aggressive campaign. They're certainly coming out with lawyers. There's a lot here to unpack, and this podcast is really going to be the first step in this because so many things are unresolved. But on April 11th, Harvard was told by the administration that they would be removed from the Student Exchange Visitor Program, the SEVP, if they didn't share a lot of data around international students, disciplinary records, and other things. And another $2.2 billion in funding was threatened. So on April 14th, about 3 days later, Harvard came back aggressively, filing lawsuits and saying, no, we're going to fight this demand because we believe that it encroaches on our First Amendment rights. We feel it's punitive and targeted at Harvard. About 2 days later, 1,700 students with F1 visas had them revoked around the United States, not just Harvard. So this was definitely a shot across the bow of the universities. And on April 22nd, a federal judge came in and said, no, wait, you can't just wholesale cancel these visas. They reinstated 133 of those, and a temporary order starting on April 22nd, lasting 2 weeks, saying you can't take away additional visas. Move forward to May. A broadside is launched, moving to strip Harvard's tax-exempt status. A lot of press around this, truth, social media posts, everybody's kind of running with the story. And on May 7th, Secretary of Education McMahon comes out and says that Harvard is not eligible for new federal research grants. I am not an expert on the depth of where this money goes. I'm not here to opine on that. I know that it will be tremendously crippling to Harvard University if it loses all its federal funding. A lot of these universities, both public and private, this is not just an Ivy thing or an Ivy Plus thing, really do a lot of public research. They do it funded by government money, and a lot of that research goes out into the public domain. Some of it goes into private corporations who can then commercialize and monetize it. But the bottom line is that there are a lot of things that happen in terms of research and development on all levels of life, medicine, engineering, technology, that originate in universities. So this is a very, very serious threat, not just to the existence of Harvard, but also all universities. On May 22nd, the administration blocks the ability to enroll international students, and they send a letter revoking the student exchange visa certification. So at that point, on May 23rd, Harvard sues the administration, claiming it's a violation of their First Amendment rights, and that Harvard is one quarter of their student body is international. So they're coming back strong against Department of Homeland Security, and they're saying, hey, listen, international students are a critical part of what we do. Why? Well, number one, they provide a diversity of thought and opinion because the world is a global place. Anybody doing business in America right now, more than likely, is touching a product or a good or a service that has originated at some point overseas. And it's important to understand and have those relationships. From a soft power standpoint, it's critically important that the leaders of these countries, future leaders of these countries, in my opinion, are trained in the US, are friendly to the United States, are here. They're absorbing our values. They're absorbing our methods. They're building personal relationships with future US leaders who are going through these schools, both Ivy Plus and state schools. And when you look out around the world, I've been doing business around the world, working on education around the world for my whole career. And what I can tell you is that there is a camaraderie, there is a personal tie that is developed that is very, very, very important. And as these students leave and they go back to their home countries, yes, they bring our methods, they bring the things that they've learned, but they also bring our values in many cases. They bring our processes, they bring relationships that they've developed. And I do believe that it creates an interconnected global web of relationships that is helpful to peace, to prosperity, to trade, and to all of those things. So I do think that international students are very, very important. For US students, international students are important, not just for the relationships and the perspective, but also because most international students are full pay. They pay list price, which most American students do not. And what that does is it, in effect, subsidizes US tuition. So US students pay lower tuition because the schools are able to do that on the back of these full pay international student tuition payments. Now, what happens if the international students go away? No idea, right? I'm not going to pretend to know. And I think there's a lot of legal cases and court cases and challenges between now and then. I personally think it would be a great disservice to our country because I think it's very beneficial for us to be part of the global network, the global trade network, the global diplomacy network. And isolating ourselves does not do us any justice. All it does is isolate us from the changes that are happening around the world, driven now by different countries. Now, on May 24th, there was another broadside from the administration saying that Harvard's international students, and by and large, most international students, are not friendly to the United States and not helping us. On May 27th, the administration sends Harvard a letter saying that they're basically canceling the last bit of remaining federal contracts worth $100 million. Since last month, the administration has frozen about $3.2 billion in grants and contracts with Harvard. The courts are going to settle this. It's going to be a nasty fight in the courts. My guess is it's going to go up to the Supreme Court. I am not a Supreme Court lawyer, and so I am not going to weigh in on the legal merits of this. I think it's going to be very interesting to watch. I know that I speak regularly with a lot of the Ivy Plus schools. There's a lot of apprehension here. There's a lot of nervousness. I speak with international students. I have international students in my DMs and my comments, terrified of the implications. What does this mean for us? So I wish I had an answer. I really do. And today, on May 27th of 2025, the Secretary of State came out and said that they are going to pause all international student interviews for student visas. And they are considering a policy to vet international students' social media. So they put a pause on international student visa interviews until they can figure that out. Now, you might be saying to yourself, okay, well, they'll get that restarted. But getting a student visa is enormously complex. And I can tell you anecdotally that I have a lot of students in my DMs, a lot of students emailing me saying that they weren't even granted an interview. They had an appointment, they showed up, they went into the embassy with their paperwork, they weren't even heard, they were just stamped denied. So I think that, in my opinion, while a lot of this strategy against Harvard is somewhat performative and meant to send a message, the real damage is going to be done behind closed doors. It's going to be done at the embassies, at the consular offices, where visas are just not going to be granted. And that is one way they're going to upend the balance of power between international students and US students. I have no inside information on that. That's just my feeling and my experience, having been through a lot of this post 9/11 when I was at the Wharton School. International students right now are terrified. My inbox is melting with students that I know, students that I don't know, saying, what do we do? What do we do? My advice here is to breathe. Let's see what happens in the next week or two. There are definitely legal challenges coming. Harvard is absolutely going to fight this. It's very difficult to fight DHS on these kinds of things, so it's going to be interesting to see the tack that they take on it. But I think overall, this could be an absolute ground shift this coming year for US students. What does this mean if you are a current US student? Well, it could mean that your financial aid package changes significantly. If you are an international student, you might want to look at a deferral. You might want to look at opportunities to study at partner universities or other campuses around the world so that you can maintain your status at the university. It is entirely feasible that these schools will put in place distance learning, basically pivot back to a COVID model so that students are not disrupted in their educational tract entirely, and so that they're allowed to continue getting their education and getting their credits. There's so much that we don't know about this, so I do urge you to follow me. Follow the podcast, follow me on social media at AdmittedlyCo on Instagram and TikTok. It's where we're going to be really tracking this stuff real time. If you have a perspective, if you're affected by this, if you have thoughts on this, I want to hear from you. Go to our social media, comment, DM me. I want to know your opinion because this is unfolding real time and it's something that we're going to be keeping a very, very close eye on. I do believe that international students add a tremendous amount to our country. Yes, financially with tens of billions of dollars of economic contribution every year, but also to the fact that we are a global destination. We are where people want to come and study and live and build their lives and contribute to the United States and their growth. And so while no system is perfect, and I hope that a compromise is reached to enable us to enroll and bring in the best students from around the world and keep DHS happy in terms of screening and all the things they do to keep the country safe. A lot of this is going to happen in the coming days, weeks, and months. So bear with us. We're going to do the best we can to keep you informed, and we look forward to continuing this dialogue. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. Please take a moment to subscribe to the Admittedly podcast and download this episode. I welcome you to share your thoughts and questions with me. You can find us on social media at Admittedly Podcast. I look forward to continuing our journey together.